But some of the challenges that we have is access to the markets, or access to the point where this produce can actually be then passed on either by air or transport. And so what we are saying here is that um, creating capacity for Zambia Airways would definitely give us an opportunity for growth, and also for supporting of the small markets, the small producers of the various crops and maybe even livestock that we have as a country. So the national airline in Kenya, which is Kenya Airways, we see has played a huge role as a catalyst to the government's policy on export-oriented horticulture. And what we're saying is that this could actually be the same for Zambia. Finally, Chair, under this head, a national airline potentially has a broader reach, including neglected and attractive routes as a public service and a public service obligation, which stimulates local and regional travel for business, and it's an important to grow connectivity to key tourism markets, even when loss-making, which may be a government strategy, and downstream industries such as hospitality, local transport activities, adventure benefits in mass. Chair, in our report, we have submitted a passenger traffic um, chart for the years 1990 to 2022. This chart is basically just indicating what the passenger movements have been, specifically in the Zambia airspace, mainly in the international airports. And as an explanation, you will see that there was a decline in passenger numbers between 1990 and 1992, which was attributable to transition in government, and between 2008 and 2009 due to financial crisis, and also in 2019 to 2020 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. On the domestic front, Chair, you will note that if you look at the chart between 1990 and 1993, you will note a 50-50 in terms of the passenger numbers for domestic and international. Looking at the key, the orange color depicts domestic travel, and the blue, the international. When you look at the bar that is separating the two, domestic and international, you will note, Chair, that there is a distribution of 50% of passengers in relation to domestic and 50% to international during the periods 1990 to 1992. However, there was a drop which is attributed to the closure of the national airline in 1994. So in 1994, you will note that we have less passengers in domestic in 1994, going down, and we have not recovered since, in the sense that international numbers remain soaring over domestic. And therefore, what we are trying to highlight here is the fact that a national carrier, a national airline, is critical also to assuring the growth in domestic travel. Chair, you will see though that in the chart is showing that even if there was a drop in 1994 and passenger numbers rebounded around 2008 when Zambezi Airline commenced operations. So at the time, we did have a local airline that helped with the local travels within the country. Chair, item number 5.0 is talking to the short and long-term mechanisms to ensure profitability of Zambia Airways from our view, our perspective. And what we're stating is that in line with the government's objectives to facilitate the development of reliable, frequent, affordable, safe, and secure domestic and international air transportation, Zambia Airports has implemented an incentive scheme aimed at promoting the growth of local airlines such as Zambia Airways. And Chair, I must hasten to say that these incentives that we have implemented actually go to supporting both local and international airlines. So for those airlines which are coming into the market for the first time, they do benefit from these incentives. And I would like to highlight the landing charges, which are stipulated as in the first year, the corporation offers a 50% discount on all landing charges on new routes, and a 40% discount in the second year, and then a 30% discount in the third year, and a 0 to 25 discount negotiated in the fourth year, and it is based on the load factor above 70%. So when an airline has reached its fourth year, but it can show us that its load factors are 70% and above, then there is still room to negotiate this incentive on landing charges. Chair, this is similar on ground handling charges as well as parking charges. The percentages applied are the same. Chair, our view is that other means of ensuring that Zambia Airways is profitable should include a review of the IDC Ethiopian Airlines Partnership Agreement as well. We now look at the challenges faced by Zambia Airways and opportunities in operations. Under the challenges, Chair, we note that Zambia Airways currently has one aircraft, which is a 72-seater Q400, and it services routes which are Ndola, Livingston, and Solwezi from Lusaka. This has limited their frequencies and the route expansion in line with the airline's plans. Further, when there is a breakdown of the aircraft, it negatively affects the reliability of the service, and therefore there is not only an inconvenience to passengers but also reputation damage on the side of the airline. The use of one aircraft may also erode the confidence in many flights getting cancelled and loss in passengers and ultimately revenue. Chair, also another challenge is building a reputation takes very long in this business, and it will therefore take time for customers to be able to trust and rely on the airline. Therefore, the preference of other well-established airlines that have been in existence way before it. In terms of the IDC Ethiopian Airlines Partnership Agreement, I think I already alluded to that, Chair. There is a need perhaps to relook at that agreement. And then fourthly, it may be difficult for the airline to execute its long-term growth strategy, which entails developing routes beyond local and regional routes, especially if it does not expand its fleet. We do see, Chair, though, that there are opportunities as well, and this is that development of regional routes leveraging Zambia's central location with SADC is a good opportunity, and we see that there are immediate opportunities to benefit from the underserved Lusaka, Johannesburg, and Livingston, Johannesburg, and Lusaka, Cape Town routes. Local patriotism is good at the moment, which is not currently being leveraged in our view. And there are difficulties of self-booking on website, which must be worked on, and also aesthetics and menu on the board as well. Our view is that some of these are low-hanging fruit that could be improved. Excuse me. Chair, there is also an opportunity for the airline to bring in more aircraft to serve existing routes. We think that the challenge is not that there are no routes. The routes are there both domestically and regionally, and we think that the airline would do well to service these routes. Some of these unserviced routes include Lubumbashi, which I believe has great potential, and this will enhance revenue collection and employment opportunities, among others. Chair, another opportunity is the implementation of an attractive domestic tourist travel package under the Zambia Tourism Agency. As I stated earlier, we see that there is a need for collaboration, and if we do collaborate, Zambia Tourism Agency has a campaign which is themed Take a Holiday and Have It Local. This can be achieved through partnerships between ZTA, the airline, Zambia airports, tour operators, lodges, and hotels, where all parties can offer discounts to the traveling passengers to destinations such as Livingston and Mfue, among others. And now there are various circuits which are opening up, Chair, such as the Northern Circuit. There is a lot of potential for tourism in those areas, and the airline would do well to open up a route into Kasama, for example. Chair, there's also an opportunity for the airline to support government's drive to harness trade opportunities between businesses in the DRC and Zambian-owned businesses. As you may be aware, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, 2 trade missions in 2021 and 2022 were undertaken by the Zambia Development Agency to DRC alone to secure market access by Zambian products. Some of these have been successful and therefore provide an opportunity for Zambia Airways to commence flights into Lubumbashi and transport some of this cargo. Chair, the airline could also partner with other airlines to help with expansion through code sharing. And further, the airline could help return the country's pilots and technical staff. We know that there has been a lot of drain in the sense that the technical staff in the airline industry did migrate. And we think that these could come back because we think that Zambia is now greener than most of the destinations that they relocated to. Lastly, Chair, I would like to focus on recommendations on how to enhance the management and operations of Zambia Airways as an airline. And firstly, Zambia Airports is of the considered view that government should resolve the identified challenges with current ownership and operation of Zambia Airways and exploit the available opportunities, and that the airline should be allowed to grow by executing deliberate expansionary vision and strategy to enable the country attain transport and logistics hub status. We think this is a good time for the airline to leverage on the government's vision in this regard. And Zambia Airways should embark on an aggressive and consistent marketing strategy, and it should also formulate a robust fleet strategy as there is need to increase the number of aircrafts. It is also important to right-size the fleet to take advantage of economies of scale and ensure that operational costs do not exceed revenue. Lastly, Chair, as a recommendation, Zambia Airways should embark on creating other profit centers aside from passenger ticket sales by offering services. So we feel that the expansion can also include other avenues of business in the industry, and we could take a leaf from Ethiopian Airlines, which has major revenue contributors in form of services such as the Ethiopian Express and ancillary services, Ethiopian Cargo Services, the maintenance, repair, and overhaul MRO services, the Aviation Academy of Ethiopia, and also the in-flight catering and Ethiopian ground services. Chair, at this point, I submit the report to yourself and your honorable members for consideration and adoption by this committee. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, our witness, for that detailed presentation. At this point, I'm going to allow members of the committee to engage with the witness. We will take 3 questions or points of clarification, and please feel free to respond. Your colleagues could also feel free to chip in should need arise. So I note Honorable Sialubalo, Honorable Mpankata, and Honorable Gift. Honorable Sialubalo, over to you.
Thank you so much, witness. It is the pleasure or hope of every Zambian that Zambia Airways should grow. But what we have seen personally is that it's still limping actually, one year along the line. There is no growth. Because if there was growth, by now we should have been talking of Zambia Airways having not less than 2. Now, being the one who houses these, you do the servicing of these facilities that they utilize. I wanted to find out from you how much you charge as is it landing charges, parking charges, and also what is this again? And ground charges. We wanted to find out from you Maybe you are the reason why we are failing to have our own, bearing in mind that we had Zambia's airline, which also is now history, is gone. There was also Zambian Airways. It never lasted. So we want to know where we are getting it wrong, whether you are part and parcel of the problem, your fees are high. We need to know, because you can't have an airline with just one airplane servicing maximum how many, almost 10 provincial centers. It's not safe for the users. It doesn't show potential for the growth of the industry. So I want to find out how your charges are, where we are getting it wrong, why the industry is not growing, despite the opportunities that you have mentioned. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Salvalo. Honorable Mpankata.
Thank you, Chair. Witness, I want to find out how many companies are operating air flights domestically in Zambia, apart from Zambia Airways. Under their the fares for Zambia Airways, are they competitive with the other operators?
Thank you so much, Honorable Samoshi.
Thank you, Chair. I think mine, I'm riding on Honorable Siavalo's question. I think one of the challenges that we have is the issue of the cost of doing business. It's too high, and I think this has inhibited a lot of companies from excelling. Now, apart from the charges that are mentioned here, are there other charges that you charge these airlines?
Thank you so much. And maybe as a rider, one of the recommendations, Witness, is that it would be important, if Zambia Airways to be profitable, it would be important to review the IDC Ethiopian Airlines partnership agreement. Would there be any salient features to this agreement which you may wish to speak to for purposes of this report? Over to you, Witness.
Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members, for those questions. I will ask my team to speak to some of these items, and I will come and make a comment at the end. I think to start with, there was a question on the growth of Zambia Airways and the perception that it is limping, and whether Zambia Airports charges might be contributing to its stunted growth. I'll ask that you speak to it. Yes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the honorable members of the committee. To start with, on whether the charges applicable by Zambia Airports Corporation could be part of the contributing factors to inhibiting the growth of the national Zambia Airways. First and foremost, maybe just talking about the charging regime. First, landing charges are applicable based on the maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft, meaning that the higher the weight, the higher will be the applicable charge. And of course, that is based on the rationale that the impact on landing on the pavement of the runway is affected going by the weight of the equipment. Then also on parking, there are graduations. The first 3 hours for the medium to heavy aircrafts are free of charge, meaning that for those which are doing a turnaround, if they are only on ground for 3 hours, they will not pay anything in terms of parking charges. And of course, for the lighter aircrafts, there has been a change where the charge is now associated with the daily parking, not the hourly parking. So again, that the applicable rate also goes by the size of the aircraft. And of course, those which do not, these charges, parking charges are only applicable when the aircraft is parked on the apron, which is that service area where passengers board or cargo is loaded or flooded. If they go to their hangars, then that charge is not applicable. With regards to ground handling charges, again, these ground handling charges are negotiated with the various operators. So once an airline wants to commence flights into Zambia, they will approach us and we will negotiate. Depending on the agreement we enter into, those would be the applicable ground handling charges for the duration of a year, and they are subject to review from time to time. So in terms of getting back to the landing charges, our charges regionally are quite comparative. We've looked at the charges applicable in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. We are almost within the regional range. So, meaning that in terms of our impact of the charges on the operators, it's common according to the region. And we're looking at markets like Kenya, where there is a huge traffic of aircrafts, South Africa, as well as our neighboring country, Zimbabwe. And further, looking at the other operating airlines, like we've got Emirates, Qatar, Royal Air Charters, which is a domestic operator, ProFlight. The landing charges are all applicable at the same pace to all these. So it is a bit difficult for us to confirm that the applicable charges have an impact on the welfare of Zambia Airways per se, in terms of their performance. Then coming to, I hope I've answered the question on the charges before I move on, unless there is a clarification.
Professor Adwar.
Unless the witness is not allowed to mention the figures, because I thought that would also help the committee.
Witness, are you able to mention the figures?
Thank you, Chair. For now, since we didn't bring the reference material, but the committee can be availed with the comparative data at an opportune time, so that you have a full understanding of how we fare relative to the other countries.
Witness, that would be much appreciated. I think it will help us in compiling our report and also making recommendations going forward.
Thank you, Chair. On the next question, on how many other operators are conducting flights other than Zambia Airways, on the domestic front, we've got ProFlight, which has been a dominant player, and we also have Royal Air Charters, though much of their flights are between Lusaka, Solwezi, and Kalumbila. We also have Mahogan Airlines, though they've suspended the operations as at now, starting from the time of the onset of COVID-19 in 2020. They haven't yet resumed operations. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I think there was another question.
Yes, Honorable Bankata.
Thank you so much, Chair. The fares charged by Zambia Airways, on average, they are relatively lower compared to these other operators. And that is what, as we heard from the Managing Director's presentation, that is what has stimulated traffic in terms of the domestic market. Since they came on board, we've seen a rise in the number of passengers flying because of the relatively favorable fare. Thank you, Chair.
So you've done what ought to be done to create that enabling environment, and you don't think the non-optimal performance has anything to do with the rates that are coming from your end?
Thank you, Chair. Precisely because in terms of incentives, Zambia Airways has been accorded the same incentives as has been highlighted. They are on, for the first year, 50% on almost all the key charges. Then, depending on the situation, they'll be graduated as it were. And of course, we also provide support in terms of granting them some credit facilities. They do not pay as they operate, but we give them some credit period to enable them flexibility in terms of their cash flows. Thank you, Chair.
Was the usage of the word intensive just a slip of the tongue, or should we be worried?
Sorry, Chair, come again.
The usage of the word intensive, could it be intensive care unit, or should we be worried that it was just a slip of the tongue?
Thank you, Chair. I beg to withdraw the word intensive. It was just a slip of the tongue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There was another question from the Honorable on what other charges we charge airlines apart from the ones that are listed in the memorandum. So we do have air navigation charges. These are based on the distance that an aircraft would take in the Zambian airspace. So for the domestic routes, these are quite minimal because the distances are fairly short. Well, as my colleague had indicated, we would be able to submit the actual figures. However, for a route, let's say between Lusaka and Dola, it would probably be less than $100. Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. I hope that the submissions made by my colleagues have addressed the questions of the honorable members. I just wanted to state, Chair, for the record that our view is that the support that is required to be given to the airline, Zambia Airways, has been given in all the aspects that we have the capacity to give support. And Zambia Airways is always in the skies, and this is because they are servicing the routes that they have subscribed to service. Our view is that one of the biggest challenges is the expansion in terms of equipment and increasing of the routes. So as an airports company, we think that we have and we continue to provide the support to Zambia Airways, just as we do to all the other domestic as well as international airlines. Thank you, Chair.
Maybe one aspect, the need to, or the proposal to review the IDC Ethiopian Airlines Partnership Agreement. Would you want to speak to that? Any salient?
Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I do not have, at this point, specific aspects that we would propose. What we have had is not, we have not been privy to the actual clauses of the agreement, but based on the discussions we have had in general, it is perceived that perhaps the agreement between IDC and the Ethiopian Airlines may need to be relooked at in order to benefit the Zambian party better. But in terms of specifics, we are unable at this point to offer any.
Is that something you'd wish to include in your subsequent briefing to this committee?
The specific position? Yes, we can include that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Chair, on the issue of the charges, I was expected that maybe you would speak to some of the licensing fees, which maybe these airlines are charged, apart from what you have spoken to. Are there any licensing fees, and maybe how frequent are they expected to be paid?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. The licensing fees with regard to airport operations are not applicable. However, they are expected to pay for their operating licenses with the Zambia Civil Aviation Authority. For instance, they need to renew the air operator certificate, they need to renew the crew licenses and all. So, but those are normally taken care of by Zambia Civil Aviation Authority. Thank you.
Honorable Kasonso, Honorable, then followed by Honorable Taulo. Honorable Samakai. My apologies, my apologies. My apologies, I miss him.
You miss him indeed. Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think I followed on the structure of the fees that are supposed to be paid, and also looking at the charges some of these airlines are charging. For instance, I've used Royal Air Charter, who are charging $100 from Lusaka to Sorezi. Proflight, I think, is somewhere around 5,000. Just look at the disparities, and I don't know what could be causing this. I don't know the fare for Zambia Airways. So if you know, maybe you can provide that, and then we'll look at the disparities. What is causing this?
Thank you, Honorable Samakai. Honorable Taulo.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you once more, witness. I have two questions. Number one, as an institution which is mandated to manage the airports in Zambia, I would like to find out from you on the number of aircraft that Zambia Airways has. I'm asking this question. You talked about one aircraft, which is serving Lusaka, or servicing Lusaka, Ndola, Sorwezi. But when you go to Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, there is that aircraft which is still parked. So that is the reason why I would like to know how many aircrafts Zambia Airways has. Number two, I would like to find out from you on the infrastructure, the airport infrastructure in Zambia, taking into account that yes, we have Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, Simon Mwanseka Pwepo Airport, we have also even Sorezi. Now, I would like to find out, you as an entity, are you happy with the infrastructure of these airports countrywide? And if not, what is your take to ensure that we promote and increase the revenue for this country? And in addition to the same, I'd like you to confirm the status of Kasama Airport. When are we open that airport?
Maybe Honorable Taulo, may we should be specific about that aircraft which is always parked. Which aircraft are you referring to? No, we want the, let's help the witness to exactly know what we're talking about.
I'm talking about the total number of aircraft that Zambia Airways has. Thank you.
Honorable Musanje.
Thank you so much, witness. From your report, I see that these incentives you have given on page 7, they are to all year 1 flyers, year 2 flyers, year 3 flyers. Is there no reason why you should not have a special one for Zambia Airways, given that it's a government airline, to facilitate it to not to compete against, not to have the same incentives with the other private airlines? That's one question. Then the other two, they may not appear in your report, but they are my observations. the new airports, I guess it's under your care as Airports Corporation Limited. A number of fittings and items are still written in Chinese. Are you able to read Chinese? And do the Zambian public read Chinese? So when are you going to assert yourselves as the owners so that things are written in Zambian? I don't think that when we receive a donation or whatever, I don't know if was it a donation or it's a grant or it's a, yeah, we should not be subjected. We should be able to change the language and put it to what we can read and understand, you know, as Zambians. And I've seen no good road in the new Ndola airport. Excellent airport, but the road issue, I don't know if it's within your care to deal with that aspect with the local authorities that side. And then what action is being taken to take the airline to new routes such as Choma, the development of the Choma airport as a provincial capital for Southern Province? Thank you.
Witness, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. A number of issues have been raised by the honorable members. I will see whether we captured all of them and attempt to respond. The team will give support where I have left out any detail. In terms of the disparities that were raised, the question on the disparities on the ticket, Chair, we know that the various airlines do adopt different business models. We are not certain what causes the real disparities on the airline side, but we are able to provide some detail in terms of what all the airlines are providing. I would like to believe this is specific to domestic airlines. We can provide that detail, Honorable Member, but we would like to believe that they adopt various business models. So in terms of the ticketing charges, we may not be privy to why, but also would like to state that the competition that was brought on by Zambia Airways, which was in their reduced ticket, did increase passenger numbers. So we would like to believe that there is a benefit in having Zambia Airways operate at optimum. In terms of the number of aircraft that Zambia Airways has, would like to reiterate that they only have one aircraft at the moment. The aircraft that the honorable member referred to, that is parked just as you enter the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, is an aircraft which was grounded belonging to the Zambian Airways. Zambian Airways and Zambia Airways are two different airline operators. Zambian Airways was a privately owned airline which has since gone under. So that aircraft is parked there belonging to Zambian Airways pending a resolution of some issues that relate to a debt that is owed to the airport, among others. Chair, in terms of infrastructure, yes, I must say that we are very happy with the focus that the government has given so far to infrastructure development in the aviation industry. And we know, Chair, that this is just the beginning because we are still receiving a lot of support. So far, 3 international airports have been developed. The only international airport which pens development is in Fuwe. And when it comes to aerodromes developments in the provinces, a lot of attention is being given to the aerodromes. The government has provided funding since 2018 when the aerodromes were handed over to Zambia airports, and we see now that the support is even growing, the financial support. So what Zambia airports has done is that we have positioned ourselves and we have development plans for all 7 provincial airports and 3 strategic airports. And in terms of priority, we are developing these aerodromes based on the capacity and the interest that is being created in these areas. So going forward, Chair, you will see that a lot of activity is being developed in the provinces for passengers, and the relevant infrastructure is being developed. In terms of Kasama Airport, just recently, the Honorable Minister of Transport was in Kasama, and I think in terms of the status at the time, which was beginning of January or mid-January, I think we were around 40% works. The biggest challenge that is there is that because of the rains, the contractor has not been able to move swiftly on the project, but they are positioned and they are ready. The materials are available, the equipment is available. It is only a matter of allowing the ground to dry up before they can move in to complete the works. In terms of when the completion will be done, I cannot give a position on that, but just to state that the works are progressing quite well, but for the rains. In terms of special treatment for Zambia Airways, unfortunately, Chair, we are precluded from giving special treatment specifically because we do subscribe to the competition consumer protection laws, which, Chair, we are inclined to offer similar treatment to all airlines and customers who we do business with. So unfortunately, because of that, I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunately, we are regulated and we were unable to we're unable to offer incentives. But Zambia Airways did and are benefiting from on all routes, Chair. Because as we stated, it's a routes issue. So if they are developing 3 different new routes, they will benefit from that incentive. Chair, I do note the concern raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament on the fittings and the language. I think he has stepped out. Oh, it was you? I thought it was, okay. Yes, Chair, we do note that, and maybe I do, but Chair, I know that your point, Honorable Member, is that the language should be a language that is official in the country. We appreciate that, and yes, we are working on that. Just to inform you that when we did start the project and put in, it was one of the uphill battles that we had to fight with the contractor. We are making significant progress, and some signage you will begin to see that it is changing.
Who owns the asset?
The asset is owned by the government of the Republic of Zambia at the moment, and Zambia Airport is a beneficiary.
So why should we have an uphill battle if we own it?
I don't know, Chair. The challenge that we had, why I said an uphill battle, is because we did have some issues with the contractor on that issue specifically. Maybe there are some details that I'm not necessarily sharing here, but what I meant was that in some instances we were made to believe that that was what was contractually agreed. But we did go back to the contract and we did ascertain that, in fact, the signage should be in I was going to say Zambian, but in English, and we are working on that. You will see some of the signage starting to change, and some of it has already changed, Honorable Member. So perhaps we would request that you just give us some more leverage to continue pushing on this issue.
Yeah, we'll need to tour the airport to check maybe after 2 months or so, to see for ourselves.
Maybe, just right on the infrastructure. You talked about 7 supports 3 strategic airports. Could you kindly name them and, if possible, each and every airport, is it receiving any support in terms of upgrading the infrastructure that can support the generation of income for this country?
Thank you, Chair.
Please, let's give the witness ample time to respond to the questions before we bring in any questions. Yes, otherwise we just distract them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. From the last set of questions, I think there was one which I may not have addressed, which is the issue of the road. It was noted that the Choma.
The road in Ndora and the Choma one.
The development of Choma, okay. Okay, the road in Ndola, Chair, I would like to state that there has been there was a delay in the development of the road, mainly because there was a need to rescope the works. As you may be aware, there was instruction that projects in Zambia should be either discontinued or rescoped. So in the Ndola project, the road was one of the aspects which was rescoped. Initially, the road was to be developed for up to, was it 14 kilometers?
Yes.
However, we did negotiate that instead of scrapping it off completely, at least 4 kilometers should be developed, which is currently underway and is almost complete. Within the next few weeks or so, we should hear that the road has been commissioned. In terms of developments for Choma, Chair, there are intentions to develop the airport in Choma. In fact, just last week, there was a statement that was issued by, who issued that statement? The provincial office, through an official there, I can't confirm who it was, Chair, did state that they were actually proceeding to develop Choma Airport. So what we have done, because the airport company, with the support of government, already has intentions to develop the same airport, what we have done is that a team was actually on the ground last week to meet with the provincial office to just discuss on how we can collaborate on the development of that airport. In terms of development of other airports, as I stated earlier, Chair, we do have a plan to develop all the airports that have been handed over to us since 2018. These airports in the provinces, Chair, in terms of strategic, there's Mbala and Kalulushi South Downs, as well as Kasaba Bay in the northern province. And in terms of the provincial, we have Choma, we have Chinsali, we have Mansa, Kasama, Solwezi, and what have I left out? Mongu and Chipata, those two. Those are the 10 aerodromes in the provinces, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, witness. I think on the issue of preferential, treatment to state-owned enterprises, clearly, I think the position of government, I think even from His Excellency the President, is that they expect state-owned enterprises to be very competitive, and so I think your witness is on the right track. Maybe as we know that we don't have as much time, but probably speaking to what Ethiopian Airlines has projected in terms of its vision, they have their Vision 2025. In their Vision 2025, they look at increasing the fleet to 120, 90 destinations, and carrying over 18 million passengers and 720,000 tons of cargo, with 17,000 employees. The implication on Zambian Airways is that Zambia Airways is that it's supposed to operate 12 aircrafts, and it's supposed to carry over 1.9 million passengers by the year 2028. Is this feasible from where you stand?
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you so much, honorable members. In line with the vision by Ethiopia, of course, we must also recognize the fact that Ethiopia is using Ethiopian Airlines to expand their operations, to expand their reach. And in so doing, they are getting in collaboration with different states so that they partner and they become part of the Ethiopian Airlines network, like they've done with Zambia, Malawi, and I think they're still in negotiations with Mozambique. So in terms of their global strategy, probably the aspirations, they are moving in that direction. And for Zambia Airways, it's our hope that they will live to this mandate, because I'm sure the agreement which was entered into provided for the growth of the company. And the growth can only be achieved with appropriate resources, both in terms of aircrafts and human capital. So it's our hope as Zambia Airports too, that this will be realized, because with the increased fleet, it means we also have increased revenue from their operations, both in terms of charges applicable to aircrafts and paying passengers, as well as the cargo they will be shipping. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, colleagues?
Thank you, Chair. From the introductions, I got it that the three of you, starting from the CEO, you are all acting. For how long have you been acting, and why everyone acting?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Mrs. Luinga on my left is acting because the director who she's representing has traveled out of town, so she's been acting for a few days. Mr. Mumbi on my right is acting airport services director because the position which he's acting in has been vacant since August 2021, and the recruitment process for the position is yet to commence. And then I am acting MD since October 2021, and the position is vacant, but it will be filled using the relevant channels. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we need to move away from this acting. If you're driving such an important institution as the Zambia Airports Corporation, and acting from October 2021, clearly, I mean, why wouldn't someone want to just confirm you? You know, these are issues that I think we need to address. Yeah, I think when the PS appears before this committee, we'll take, because it doesn't unless the institution is nosediving, you know. But if the institution is ticking, why don't we motivate those who are, you know, the current players and who are causing the institution to tick? You know, otherwise, how else are we going to motivate the current office bearers? You know, do you want to respond?
Yes, Chair. Just for the record, I'd like to state that the recruitment process is underway for the position.
Thank you, Witness. We are mindful of the recruitment process and also mindful that recruitment is an expensive exercise.
At what stage have it reached? Have they interviewed, shortlisted, or waiting announcement?
Thank you. I know that we've digressed, but it's important because you are an important player in the industry, and there has to be justifiable grounds, you know. And I think we cannot wait for the PS to appear before this committee, so that we understand the purposiveness and what was really driving, you know, the the direction that that has been taken. Any questions from? Clearly, but I think they can also just give us any other information. But we'll wait for the PS to appear before this committee. Maybe in the interest of time, colleagues, unless it's a very burning issue.
Thank you so much. Maybe just one more question, Chair. The witness talked about Zambia Airways operator as a private airline, as it is not enacted by Parliament. I think you are at the point that we wanted to drive that maybe Parliament may react to this. That can change maybe the scenario. Would you love to maybe shed more light on that?
Thank you, Chair. So our understanding is that the Zambia Airways is registered as, is not registered under, there is no act of parliament that has brought Zambia Airways into being, as it is with some national carriers. In our view, the Zambia Airways is operating under an agreement with a private entity, which is Ethiopian Airways, in partnership with the government. That is different from it being a state-owned enterprise as formulated under an act of parliament. And in terms of the way that it can operate and the certain aspects that the environment within it, which it can do business, might be different because of the nature in which it is formulated. That was our basis of making that statement.
Witness, I think ours is to thank you for your presentation and to thank you for your candidness. Thank you for responding to the various concerns, questions raised by members of this committee. We look forward to receiving the subsequent material and information as requested for by this committee. Please feel free to give us much information, so that we help the Zambia Airways to flourish. And if there are any glare areas, if there are any salient features we need to pay particular attention to, please feel free to highlight those in your subsequent submissions to this committee. At this point, we are going to withdraw the immunity as was conferred on the witness, but we also know that you enjoy the greater immunity as conferred upon you by the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia as free citizens of this great country. So thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to further interactions.
Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members, for the opportunity and the time. I would just like to state that the members are welcome to visit the airport. Just let us know when you would like to come. I think it is a good facility that would be good for you to visit. So you are very welcome. Thank you, Chair.
And congratulations, you won some award. We needed to congratulate you as Zambia Airports Corporation. Thank you.
Permission to leave.
Welcome to the place where dreams come true, where everything you want can be yours. I'm going straight to the top. I don't know how I would stop, like it or not. I got some goals that I'm hitting. You hear what I'm saying?
So you're in?
I was in before you even invited me. That's how in I'm in.
Real food cooked by real people in their real home.
What else matters in life?
What just happened?
Your boy has blown up. Whoa!
And that's why I gotta be first.
It's brand new entertainment for a brand new you this 2023. Join dancing sensation Oti Mabuse as she travels through South Africa, introducing us to friends and family.
Growing up good was never enough. We had to push ourselves. We had to be the best.
Fire up a feast with Chef Nico as he creates mouth-watering barbecue masterpieces, from brilliant breakfasts to delicious desserts.
My favorite thing about this recipe is the combination. And you can add this to your barbecue repertoire and thank me later.
Unravel the mysteries as a humiliated detective gets banished to the town of Three Pines to solve a series of gruesome murders.
Secrets lead to lies. The truth is in what we don't see.
And dive into the dangerous with an exhilarating expedition from Seattle to Russia on Human Story Saturdays.
Walking through these temple and garden grounds, you feel kind of this zen.
Stay connected to the best TV for your best 2023 with DSTV. Do you want to keep the good times rolling? Then pay and get bumped up to a higher package. Nimbasela Nafuti by GoTV. Because when you pay your subscription, you get bumped up to the next higher package for free. To get more than enough of only the best entertainment on TV. Nimbasela Nafuti. Visit GoTVAfrica.com for more information and stay connected to get bumped up for free on GoTV. We got you. GoTV. Love it.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a station that is dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
Honorable Engineer Rafa Mabenga, Member of Parliament from Mwabezi. I'm 68 years old. I'm married, got 7 children. Started school at Sejamba Primary School. From there I went to Bwina. From Bwina I went to Sesheke Secondary School. After Sesheke Secondary School I went to Copper Belt, which is called now Copper Belt University, to do engineering. From there I was sponsored by the British Council to go to UK to continue with the studies up to master's degrees. There when I finished, I worked for Ndola City Council for 12 years. I rose up to assistant city engineer. From Ndola I went to Botswana. I worked for the Botswana government as an advisor there, and I rose up to the position of principal roads engineer. I was involved in training and the building of roads. I worked there for 8 years. From there I came back to Zambia to set up the road sector. When the road sector reform started, that is involved the road development agents, road transport and safety agents, National Council for Construction, and National Road Fund agents. National Road Fund agents, I was the pioneer chief executive officer. I worked there for 8 years up to 2010. From there, I went to Uganda to work as an advisor to the government there in the road sector. From Uganda, I worked in Malawi to actualize the Decentralization Act. Thereafter, I did some consultants again in Eswatini. From there, I came back to continue to do my own construction work, which I've been doing up to now. Thereafter, I became an MP in 2021 for Mulobezi constituency. My Mulobezi constituency is a very vast area. It has got 9 wards, sparsely populated, and it requires to be split into 2 constituencies. Too big. It has got minerals, it has got tourism potential, but because there are no roads, so investors are reluctant to go there. It's not accessible. Surrounded by Mwandi, Sesheke, Senanga, Wampa, Tombola. Those are the areas surrounding Mulobezi. It's a vast area. The developmental agenda is to ensure that Mulobezi we have a good road network. We have Simungoma, Rwampa, Kasempa Road, which I want that road to be tied. So once we open up, once we have a road, then we shall start seeing development. Also want to see.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Witness, you are very much welcome to this committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is, of course, your committee, and feel free to be as candid as you can be in our deliberations. We look forward to you speaking to the memoranda as it is. Witness, in accordance with Cap 12 of the laws of Zambia, kindly note that when Parliament is, a parliamentary committee is sitting, it is sitting as a miniature of Parliament. And so because of this, when you appear before a committee, the same immunities enjoyed by the honorable members of Parliament are extended to you, as stated in the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Cap 12 of the laws of Zambia, and as amended by Act number 13 of 2016, and then the standing orders. So therefore, whatever you submit to this committee is protected and cannot be used against you in any court of law or anywhere else. However, you are urged to be as truthful as possible, and if you choose to deliberately mislead the committee, the same Cap 12 can be used against you. However, this committee is of the view that you cannot choose to mislead it deliberately, and you should therefore feel very, very free as you make your submissions, so that immunity is conferred on you from this point onwards. In terms of procedure and process, we are going to allow you to introduce yourselves, and thereafter I'm going to ask my colleagues to also introduce themselves. At that point, we'll then ask the witness to make the presentation. Over to you, witness.
Okay, thank you. I will introduce our team. My name is Sakala, Captain Sakala. I'm the president of the Zambia Professional Pilots Association. And on my left is Captain Chi Morris Chimbelu, a member of the Pilots Association. Right is Mr. Eric Tembo, a member of the Zambia Aircraft Engineers. Okay, I hope that was clear.
Thank you so much, witness. I'll start with my immediate left.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, witness. I'm Frank Simushi, Member of Parliament for Skongo constituency and a member of this committee.
Good morning, witnesses. I'm Emmanuel Msonda, MP for Lupososhi constituency.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Captain Sakala, and the two members of your delegation. My full names are Francis Robert Kapianga, Member of Parliament for Mpika constituency.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Newton Samakai, Member of Parliament for Mwinlonga constituency in the Northwestern Province, and I'm a member of this committee.
Good morning once more, Chair. I'm Honorable Dr. Tauro Chewe, Member of Parliament for Lubanseshi constituency. You are most welcome.
Thank you so much. We have other members who are attending to other committees. I'm sure that they will join us during the course of these deliberations. Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and good morning, witness. My name is Darius Kunda, coming from the Office of the Clerk.
Thank you, witness, and my name is Sande Chanda, Member of Parliament for Kanchibia constituency, Vice Chairperson of this committee. Our substantive chair is attending to other matters. He might join us during the deliberations of this particular sitting. So please feel free, and we look forward to having a great time with you. So feel at home, away from home, especially that I see that Mr. Sakala, the hearings are on along Great East Road, and so you must feel very free. Feel at home, away from home.
I am, thanks.
Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, what you want?
Witness, you speak to your submission. We are in receipt of your submission with regard to the Zambia Airways, basically the Zambia Airways business. I mean, our interest is to ensure that we have a Zambia Airways that is ticking, a Zambia Airways that is, making profit, a Zambia Airways that allows the Zambian government as a 55% shareholder, deriving the due benefits and not a lopsided kind of arrangement. So we invite you to speak to the Zambia Airways and how can, we realize the sort of Zambia Airways we all desire.
Right, okay, thank you very much. That's a very pertinent query. And we would like to respond in accordance to the copies of the detailed memorandum on the following, the points that you raised here.
And sorry, witness, and may also mention that our deliberations are live on Parliament TV. So please feel free, because you're not only speaking to this audience, you're also speaking to the Zambian people.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you for letting us know that. Yes. One of the first point that you highlighted here was the adequacy of the policy and legal framework governing the operations and management of Zambia Airways. Now, in addressing this, it is quite apparent from the contract. We have seen two contracts of the Zambia Airways operation, and it seems to us there is two operations taking place at the same time. There is Zambia Airways operation and there is Ethiopian Airways operation. Now, in terms of how this benefits the country is something that I think we should address ourselves to quite seriously. Now, I just told you that we have seen two documents. One document, a lease agreement between Zambia Airways and Ethiopian Airways. Now, this lease agreement regards the one aeroplane which they're using now. That's the Q400. And the other agreement that we have seen is what they call the support, the expertise support contract. Right? Those are the two contracts we have seen. We know there is other contracts which I think are important for us to see those other contracts, for us to be fully helpful to this committee and to the nation. I'm referring to, for example, the business plan. We have not seen the business plan, and I think that's a very important document. We need to see a Zambia Airways business plan and how it's drawn up. We need to see the shareholders agreement. We have not seen that. We do know there could be some other MOUs which they have between the two parties, between Zambia Airways and Ethiopian Airways. Now, it could be helpful if we saw those documents, because then we can be fully, like I said earlier, it could be fully helpful to this committee and to the nation in terms of how we go forward. So in the absence of the other contracts, we can only give you maybe some information on what we feel is happening. Like we're going to refer to the two contracts that we have seen, the lease agreement for the one aeroplane and the expertise support contract. The lease agreement on the aeroplane, on the C400, the most important aspects of that is how much money Zambia Airways is paying to Ethiopia for the Q400 every month, at least since it was drawn up in 2018. 2018? 2019? 2018. There is an agreement of $205,000 per month for that aircraft, this propeller aircraft, which I think they're flying now. Now, in our view, Zambia Airways, if they had independence, they could have gone to a lease company and got the same aircraft at the time when because I think there was just the COVID starting at the time. They could have got the same aeroplane from a leasing company at about $50,000 a month. Now, we do know there is, by the way, I did send you these documents. I hope you've seen those documents. You've seen the points that I'm raising right now.
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Yes, witness. Those documents have been looked at.
All right.
Please feel free to give as much detail because, as I said, we have an audience that is following these deliberations, the general public, the Zambian people.
All right, that's good.
Who must be empowered with this information.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. So, like I said, if there was, I'm hoping there is still equity between the two companies, between Zambia Airways and Ethiopian Airways. And our hope was Zambia Airways could be, as a main shareholder, could have made a decision to go and lease aeroplane independently and maybe make it part of the agreement with Ethiopia to say, look, we're going to get this airplane from General Electric or from some company at a lower rate instead of $205,000. That's one possibility. The other possibility could have been Zambia could have gotten two aircrafts of similar make to a Q400 from Airbus or or ATR, right? I don't know whether you are aware, but I know we know this for a fact because we have been in touch with ATR staff that Zambia paid for a down payment for lease or purchase of at least two ATR 72s. Now, the reason I raise this up is because the ATR 72 is much more is much more profitable to operate than a Q400. To give you an example, profitability comes from what we call the profit load factor on an aeroplane. In other words, how much you load up the aeroplane before you start making money. Does that make sense? Now, for the Q400, the load factor is the load factor is 65%. You need to load the aeroplane up to 65% before you start making money. Whereas the ATR, you only have to load it up to 35% before you start making money. This is why on the market there is a lot more ATRs than there is Q400s because of how much money you make from the aeroplane. All right? So if we had been involved in advising the government as to what is the best aeroplane for this country, would have said, look, let's go for the ATR. As a matter of fact, even the ATR 72 is a bit too large anyway. The ATR 42, which is what we had, Zambia always had before, the ATR 42 is a smaller aircraft and is suitable for our routes. Now, not only that, the Q400 is designed, especially the engines that it has, it's designed for high-level altitudes, which Ethiopia has. They've got altitudes of, I'm talking about airfield altitudes. Okay, the altitudes there are around 7,000. So you need high-powered engines. Now, high-powered engines come with a lot of high flow, so you need a lot of fuel to operate those aircraft. With an ATR 72, it's a more suitable aircraft. You can use it at low-field aircraft like Lusaka. It's about 3,700 feet, as opposed to 7,000 feet. So that's a critical component in choosing an aircraft which is going to make you money. Right? Now, what we found out in the lease is that the way the lease is arranged, it doesn't matter to Ethiopian Airways what aircraft they use because they're making money from the lease. Whether they lose money on the aeroplane or not, it really doesn't matter to them because they've got an agreement from Zambia to pay them money for the amount of time they're flying. But if those independent Zambia Airways operation independent, they would have got a cheap aircraft which could have made them much more money than they would make from the Q400. Is that clear up to this time? Okay.
Very clear, very clear.
Okay, so this is the impact of the lease agreement on the aircraft. Now, obviously, if you have seen from the documents, we actually highlight that and say, I think for a month, if you're going to be using the Q400, for a month, it's probably costing the country about $5 million. And you can come down to $2 million if you use an ATR 42. But that is the extrapolating. Now, the other contract I referred to was the expertise support contract. Now, in that contract, it says Zambia is going to pay Ethiopia, I think in 2019, $960,000 per year for 2 years. And then that cost goes up to $1.2 million per year up to this year. And then after then maybe they're going to renegotiate, I don't know. Now, the big thing about this expertise support contract is the fact that the expertise is available in this country. Okay, that expertise can be provided by ourselves for very, very little money, maybe for $50,000 per year instead of $960,000. I think this is a critical issue where